we've got a tier list and it has some pictures in it so you'll know the guys when you're looking at them. I'm going to be covering the epics all this week. We're going to do it for 6 days. At the end of 6 days, I'm going to make the tier list to where we can see which dungeons they are best at. This is the rare one telling you all the exceptional rares and where they really excel at. We're going to do this with the epics as well. So we'll have the epic tier list and then we'll have this epic dungeon tier list so you can go in there and see where they really do some work in. We're going to kick it off with Horus up here. He is a tank, a massive tank. We get him for free at our 3-day login. You can use him in every single dungeon in the game, almost every single Fey encounter, all the way to story mode encounters. I've done so much with this guy, with his provoke, with his survivability, where we don't even have to really take care of him most of the time. He is definitely an SS class tank. Let's get down to Brody. Brody has the ability to remove shields, and when shields go up on the boss, he gets a big shield as well. I don't really like Brody. I don't think he's good in the game except for to remove shields from the Frost domain, but the Frost domain is very easy to beat anyways. But if you do have Brody, you take him into the Frost domain, makes it even easier. The thing about Grave of Curse is that you don't want the boss to get his shield up. You're not trying to let the boss get his shield up. If the boss is getting a massive shield, you're probably dead because the boss has eaten through your HP shields and now it's doing damage to your heroes. If the boss has a massive shield every round and you're using Brody to take it off, let me know how you're doing it down below. If you're doing it by making all your heroes invincible by a legendary, okay, I got you. Make them invincible, make them not take damage every single round, and then Brody goes in there and removes the shield. But if you're playing like everybody else, how are you taking this big old hit from the boss, surviving, and then using Brody to remove that shield and then to beat the encounter? That is not how Grave of Curse is actually meant to be run. Now, I'm not saying that we can't do it that way. That's great if we can. Just tell me how you're surviving, because if you have mega HP shields, you do decrease attack, and you take away the 2 buffs on Grave of Curse. With all my rare team, you saw how easy it is to do. Now, when we get up into 8 and 9, is he going to have a big shield? He shouldn't. He really shouldn't. We should have bigger HP shields ourselves, negating that damage he's doing, plus we'll have more defense, and he shouldn't get a big shield. That's not how you play that encounter. So I really don't like Brody for anything in this game, unless you're going to take him into Frost domain, and I think it's kind of a waste. But you change my mind, let me know down below. I've always liked Dane. Dane is a great hero. I played him a lot in beta. He has 2 AoE abilities. He can remove 2 buffs as long as he's scrolled. He has to be scrolled, otherwise he's at a 75% chance to remove 2 buffs, and that's no good. No bueno when we're going through the Grave of Curse and we need to remove those 2 buffs so we don't get that big hit on us. No good for when we're going through Ancient Battlefield against that big shield guy and we need to remove those 2 buffs from him. He's got some other really good moves. If they're lower in HP, we can do Fears, we can do Heal Block, we can do Attack down of 25%, not the 50%, but overall with his 2 AoE abilities, he's really good in this game. I also said that he's good in the Goblin, Heretical Runes with the Phoenix, and then also in Grave of Venom as your DPSer. He can do really well there. So being that he's got so many areas that he can do well in and excel in, I think he's definitely S-class as far as epics go. I'm just grading them on epics alone. I'm not grading them up against other legendary heroes or even rares. I'm just classifying these epics as more than really just PvE content. I'm not even going to really talk about PvP. I'll say whether they're kind of built for PvP or not, but I'm not going to really go into great detail, and I'm not going to rate them, their rating over here off of PvP alone. We'll have to make a separate PvP tier list for that. Going down to Alfie, this guy is a wild team-centric hero. That means we need other wild heroes in that team to do well. So I don't have a ranking for him because I don't know how well he's going to perform. Single target damage, and he really doesn't even do damage on his ultimate. His ultimate increases the chance that other wild heroes, including himself, will proc wild. Usually a wild hero does one of their abilities, their battle skill or their ultimate, and they have a 30% chance to get an additional effect. It's normally 20% additional damage. He'll do this area on the ground where all wild heroes have a 50% chance to proc wild on their moves. Now, Felicity can hit multiple times on her battle skill when she procs wild, and she has a 50% chance on that skill to proc wild, so this would put Felicity at 100% chance to proc wild and to do additional attacks, all the way up to 3 attacks on her battle skill. So that would be really cool for Felicity. It'd be really cool for the girl right below him, Foley, to be able to get her ultimate as well that hits multiple times if she does a wild check. So normally they'd have a 30%, 50% if they say it on their skill, and this guy increases that by 50, but he doesn't do anything else for that ultimate. So all he does is lay down this area to where you get additional wild procs. So I don't know how effective that is. I can see where it would be effective on a wild team, but you got to remember, wild teams aren't for PvE progression. They're really for boss battles. It does seem cool that we can get wild people proccing their wild skills more often, but we'll have to see how it really plays out. Same with the one below him, right? This girl right here, she could do really exceptional wild damage. She could be a really good single target damage dealer, like here, Total Nan, which is an amazing single target wild damage dealer. And we know this because I've tested her many times and she does exceptionally well. So yes, I have her as S class because single target damage, she's just too good at it not to put her at S rank. But I don't know if she's that good. And if she's not that good, then she doesn't deserve an S rank. If she's not doing what she does down here, Tonal Nan, then why is she even in our wild team, you know? You got to play with what you have, but I want to be able to classify them on how good they are at doing their job. And Tonal Nan right now is the best at that single target wild damage in the epic category, doing damage much like a legendary. She's really that good. We've got this one here that I actually played in beta. She's an orc, fire orc. She has a resistance lead, which is really good. I put over to the side there. You can see this Captain Aura is amazing for Ravatrix and Fey Meander. And then she excels in the Grave of Curse, Ancient Battlefield, and in Tempest. Same thing with Dane up here, because he can remove 2 buffs. If she's scrolled, she can remove 2 buffs. So she can remove the heal over time that the Tempest gets. She can remove the 2 buffs from Curse, and she can remove those 2 buffs from the Ancient Battlefield from the big shield guy. But her damage is severely lacking. Some of it's AoE, and she just seems to me, when I played her in beta, she did no damage. And I decked her out just like I would anybody else, and it was really, really poor. So I got her at B there, but she is useful for that resistance lead in these areas. And if she's all you got and you have her scrolled out, she can remove 2 buffs, which can be very beneficial in those dungeons, Curse, Ancient Battlefield, and Tempest. Tonal Nan is an absolute beast. Her passive gives her a 20% additional chance to crit, and then whenever she gets a wild proc, she can get up to a max of 100% additional critical damage. So yes, you want crit rate on her because you want to take advantage of that 100% additional critical damage. A lot of these wild people say they'll get this effect if an ally does a wild check. That includes themselves, but you do want another ally there doing a wild proc with them, usually, especially against bosses, so they can get to that much faster. And then hopefully they play off of each other and they're both doing amazing damage. If you had to play her on the Vortex boss now by herself and you have good crit rate, she's still going to do well. She really still will do well as long as she gets enough wild procs to increase that critical damage and you're taking advantage of that critical damage with having crit rate on her. Caraman, this guy can jump behind the enemy lines, goes after the lowest HP enemy, great backline in arena, great backline attacker if you need this in the Fey Meander or if you're going through story mode or anywhere else. It's really fun to have these guys that can jump back there and do some serious damage. And I don't know if you played arena lately, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to have somebody that can jump past all those tanks and really beeline for the lowest maxed HP person out there and just start to take them down. So great for that. As far as anything else, I don't see a use for him. We're not going to use him in any of the bosses. We're not going to use him in any of the dungeons. But for PvP and maybe Fey Meander or the trials, probably in the trials, right? There's 60 floors for each element. We're going to need to jump back behind somebody and it's going to help out. I'm sure that's really going to help us out there. Isolde and Adolphus. Let's talk about these two together. Now, Isolde looks amazing. She's a tank class. She runs up in the front line. She's going to protect only people around her, immediately around her with the defense increase 1, which is 25% increased defense, I believe. And then she's also going to do shields on everyone. And anybody with shields placed by her, they're going to take 15% less damage. We can use her in Grave of Curse right before the boss does the ultimate so we can block that damage. And we can use her everywhere else as support to keep your people alive as your main tank in pretty much any other dungeon. But she cannot be your main tank in Grave of Venom against the Harpy. She will not survive. And she's got a great defense lead of 24% in all battles. Adolphus down here, he can do shields as well. And he's kind of a little bit different because he gets a real big bonus increase from Enlightenment. So if we get a lot of enlightenment on him, he's going to do pretty good damage with this one AoE and then get shields on us that should be really big. Now I have him. I haven't had a chance to test him yet. I will move this guy from A to S, which means that he is exceptional in doing shields if that's the case. If he's going to place shields on us and do damage based off of that, and he gets shields that are massively bigger than the shield she's going to do, Isolde. Isolde does 14% of everybody's max HP as shields. He's doing it based off of attack and enlightenment. Really, though, the majority is enlightenment. If I get to test him and his shields are top tier, like we take all the epic shielders and his shields are just by far up there, then yes, he will deserve an S class for that. That alone. Because he doesn't even run up into the enemy. He'll stay behind, he'll do damage, and then he'll get your guys shielded. If he's functioning well like that, then he's going to be S class if his shields are more. And if we can do that, especially as we go up in Grave of Curse to take that big hit after we take off the 2 buffs and give him decreased attack, if he can give us amazing shields, then I'll start level him up myself and start using him for massive shields. And then we will up him from A to S if that's the case. The last one at the bottom is the free hero that we get from doing City of Trials as long as we do 60 total floors. In there's 3 different towers that have 60 floors each, and we use the 2 joining elements to go in there and fight. So we're making 3 main teams to go in there, tank, healer, control, whatever else we can throw in there that will work. And as long as we clear 60 floors total, and that mode is there, right? That mode is there till the end of time, till the end of our season, so we can go in there whenever we want. Once we clear that, we're going to be able to get her. And it looks like she's got a cool passive that gives her either accuracy or resistance. She can heal 1 person and give them increased defense 2. And then she does an AoE, area of effect move that can block buffs and dispel 1 buff. If she can actually block buffs and remove a buff at the same time, that's pretty powerful, right? If we can remove somebody that's got up, block debuffs buff where they're trying to stop us from doing debuffs, if she actually fires off the removal first and then puts up block buffs after that, that'll be extremely strong. Regardless, though, we can still use her in all these other areas that I've already talked about where we take away buffs and block buffs. She's going to do exceptionally well in Tempest to remove that regen and to block further regens. Ancient Battlefield, really good to remove 2 buffs and to block further buffs. I can't wait to play her there. And then Grave of Curse. Take away 2 buffs and block buffs. That's really what we need to do. She has an accuracy lead in arena. So all in all, she's going to be a good hero, but we're not going to see her for a while. That tower, that City of Trials is extremely hard. I love the new area we just got to with all the the dark elves down there with the Spider Queen. It's amazing. Now, this is the start of my tier list. You're going to see a video every day. We're going to have Frost tomorrow and go over all the Frost epics. Again, let me know down below if you've played any of these and you disagree. Then let me know the exact situation. Don't just be like, Brody's so good in Grave of Curse, you're crazy. You're crazy. You need to tell me why in detail, because that's not the case. So let me know anything you know about these, especially the 2 right here with the wild ones. We're going to test those out as far as the damage they do. We already know how amazing she is. Total Nan is just the complete package, right? I'll get pictures up on all my tier lists. I appreciate the love and support. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you all in a video soon.